Thanks, Myron.
Yeah, no worries, man. One of the Hamas spokespersons literally cited that as one of the main reasons why they attacked on October 7th. My bad, Maze. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. They called it, it was something, flood, what I forgot exactly what they named it, but it was literally like
Oh
you
yeah,
said, it was
Alaska
about.
flood, right? Alaska
Yeah,
floods,
yeah,
I
that's what
think.
it was. And the thing is like I don't think people understand the implications of this. Like if the Alaska Mosque goes down and they try to build a third temple, this is, this is like I think the straw that breaks the camel's back, in terms of it becoming a much bigger, much not only just regional, but just religious war. Like it's going to be huge, and that's one of the things that with them digging around saying they're looking for artifacts, they're weakening the foundation of the building intentionally. And so any missile that's like close by could eventually like cause it to collapse. And so, and by the way, did you guys know, fun fact, that those cows were genetically modified? Like they're
Yeah,
GMO cows, which is
owned by
crazy.
a Jewish company and American, the one that's here in Texas by me.
Yeah. It's
Fulfilling
just,
the prophecy.
it is crazy. Okay, so I did so royalty and then blue and then well we'll go to Dr. Farrow after royalty because I think he wanted to say something specifically to that, and then blue will come to you. Go ahead.
Uh, Greetings, everybody. Maze, a
What's
lot
up,
of love.
royalty? How
Thank
are
you.
you?
Either all is good, always space conjugating, picking up those vibes. You already know. So, Myron, I followed you for quite a while now. Props, brother. I love how you speak your voice and how you respect all lives. That's number one. So, I have two parts I kind of wanted to ask you. Number one would be about the whole thing about how Elon, when he was in the White House with his kid, and the kid was sitting there telling Trump, you're not the real president, all that kind of like mimicking whatever he's heard before. Like, what's your take on Elon being the actual running things in the White House, and Trump just being like a pawn? Just my curious thought. And then the second part would be about, so these wars that have been going on, these religious wars, is basically the pagans or the Druids versus the Zionists. Everything has to do with ley lines and how those parts. Because I'm from Odessa, Ukraine, and I have a lot of things going through that I hear and see, and so I can see that a lot of like noise has been brought up about how the New Jerusalem is going to be moved to Ukraine. So right now, the war being to like clear it all out, and
No offense, bro. You got to be able to land the plane better, man, if you want to be a public speaker. But yeah, number one. Yeah, no, yeah, just it's a very bad habit. I noticed that that's something I used to do when I started out too, bro. Just if you got to write down your stuff, pro tip, always. So, well, if you want to be more succinct, make sure to write down what you're going to say, especially when you have a question. But anyway, I'll answer the first part. Elon Musk, he's already out, bro. Elon Musk is out. He's kind of stepped away from things. He's done it quietly. He doesn't want to make it too big. But at the end of the day, Trump has a very big ego. He's going to run everything. He's going to make the final decision on everything. He's kind of out to lunch where, his staff does a lot of the work, but everything is still going through him. JD Vance is doing what he says. It is what it is. Trump has a very big ego and wants to feel like the boss. It is what it is. I think Elon being there was kind of, a scratch, you scratch my back, I scratch your back thing. Basically, Elon was one of the top donors. He said, look, Trump, I want to help. I'm going to get you votes. I'd love to come in for the first few months of the administration and assist. He did that. Now he's kind of going back to Tesla. As many of you guys know, I don't know if you guys keep up with the news, but Tesla dealerships all across the country have been getting, attacked by liberals and blown up. This is why the FBI, Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, anyone that attacks a Tesla dealership, the FBI is coming after you for terrorism. It's like they're not playing around. So with all that stuff happening and the Tesla stock, literally plummeting while he was the head of Doge, Elon's kind of secretly walked back. And then, he has his controversies, right? Obviously, from his position, he got even more spotlight than he is used to having. Ashley St. Clair came out. People have been talking shit. Tesla's been losing money, so he's like, "Fuck this shit, man! I got to go back to SpaceX, go back to Tesla. They're fucking destroying my dealerships. I got to." Because he does keep in mind, he has a fiduciary duty to his investors. So if he doesn't like fix things quick, they're gonna pull out. So his allegiance is going to be to his investors over the United States. Let's keep it real. He's a South African. He's a naturalized American, but his allegiance isn't really to the United States. And I don't and that's a red pill that a lot of you guys are going to have to take in. Billionaires, guys, by definition cannot be nationalists. This is something I've been saying for months. People like Vivek Ramaswamy, hell, even Trump, right? But Trump lost money actually being in the presidency. He's the only president to come out the White House poorer than when he went in. But so he might be a little bit of an exception. But any billionaire guys, 9 out of 10 times they're going to be globalists by default, because to acquire that level of wealth, you're going to have international interests, which is going to impede your ability to be a true nationalist. Because if you're going to be a true nationalist, that means you're, buying in America, you're creating in America, you're keeping everything in house. We all know Elon Musk loved foreign labor. He banned me on fucking Twitter and took my check away and demonetized me for calling him out on this shit, because people like him, billionaires, love to exploit H-1B visa users, and he's in tech, so they really love these H-1B visa holders. So long story short, number one, he left. He has a fiduciary duty to his investors, right? Two, he was getting too much heat. Stock was plummeting. Teslas are getting firebombed. Three, his personal life was starting to get out there in the public. He realized that all the shit that he had been doing before, fucking random bitches raw, making them have kids or whatever, it can really come back to hurt him, since he's in so much public light. I mean, he was famous before he went into the White House, of course, but now he's reached an even higher level of fame. So with that said, it's created more problems for him. And as the richest guy in the world, why the fuck he's over here working for free? By the way, he was a government employee that didn't take a salary. There's no upside to him. He's losing wealth while he sits in the White House, so he's gone. So that's the first thing I was going to say. Two, I think your question was something along the lines of Ukraine and some type of prophecy utilizing Ukraine. I'm confused by that question.
Basically, so the New Jerusalem has said it's going to be in Ukraine, and that, yeah, that they're going to move everything out there. That's why they're clearing out for the war. That's what the war is doing, is that they're going to move all the Jews into Ukraine.
Nah, nah, man. No, the Russia-Ukraine war is strictly a geopolitical one. It has nothing to do with religion. It has more to do with Russia preserving its national security. And I know Putin gets a lot of a bad rap, but the reality is, okay, this is going to be a big red pill. This is my opinion on this. You guys could agree or disagree, but this is my take on it. I think Putin is more justified in invading Ukraine than the United States was in 2003 invading Iraq, and I'll explain why. Putin can at least articulate that Ukraine is of great strategic importance to his national security. And pretty much everybody knows NATO was slowly encroaching closer and closer to Moscow, despite multiple presidents, all the way from like fucking Clinton, right? Clinton, Obama, Bush, all these guys promising, yo, we're not going to expand NATO. We're not going to expand NATO. Next thing you know, NATO's pretty much on his front door, because they put in Zelensky, who, if you guys aren't aware with Ukraine history. Basically, there was a coup in like 2014, 2013. They got out the old guy who was pro-Russia. They put in Zelensky, who's basically a puppet retard actor, who's very pro-Western. And this was kind of the beginning of the end, where Putin understood that if he could start to take control of the situation, NATO would quickly be on his front door. Now, let's contrast that with the United States and Iraq. What did we do? Oh, 9/11 happens. Okay, cool. Who's responsible? Osama bin Laden. Okay, where's he at? Oh, Afghanistan, some cave. Okay, let's go invade Iraq. Makes fucking no sense, right? And it's amazing to me, because anyone that understands Middle Eastern foreign policy knows that Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein were literally enemies. Okay, dirty little secret for you guys. We armed Osama bin Laden in the 1980s, and he fought off the fucking Russians, and he had the Mujahideen. So he comes off this fucking high in the 90s thinking, oh man, this is awesome. We just literally fought against the Russians and we beat them as rebel fighters in the hills of Afghanistan. Next thing you know, Operation Desert Storm happens when Saddam Hussein tries to invade Kuwait. When Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait, that obviously creates a great national security concern for Saudi Arabia. Many don't know Osama bin Laden is a multi-millionaire. His family was responsible for creating much of the engineering and the buildings and the structures that you guys see in Saudi Arabia today. So what did Osama bin Laden do? High off his victory against the Soviets, he goes back to the royal family in Saudi Arabia, and he sits down. He says with them, and he says, "Guys, I know Saddam Hussein is in Kuwait. I know that our safety is compromised. Let me fight for us." Osama is a Saudi citizen, even though I think he's actually Yemenis by ethnicity, but he was a Saudi citizen back then. The crown tells him, no, we have the Americans, they're gonna protect us. So Osama loses the shit, because he's like, why the fuck are infidels protecting Muslim land? This is unacceptable. This is our land. We fight Saddam, not these fucking Americans. So the royal family tells Osama, fuck off, dude. You need to go, you need to get the fuck out of here. So they kick him out of the country and they take away his passport. Where does he go? He goes to Sudan, right? He's there in the mid 90s. While he's there, he creates a lot of infrastructure for Sudan. But this is kind of the beginning of when he started to get radicalized. So ironically enough, we funded him. He won his war. He comes back to try to defend Saudi Arabia. The United States wants to come in and defeat Saddam, takes away his glory. He criticizes the royal family for that. They kick him out. That's when he started to get radicalized. And then the next thing you know, the Mujahideen transformed into Al Qaeda that we know today. So I say all that so you guys understand really the thing here, how nonsensical this is. When we invaded Iraq to fight, to return the favor for 9/11, it makes zero fucking sense. Osama hated Saddam. Why the fuck are we in Iraq? I'll tell you why. Because Iraq was at that time was a huge fucking threat towards Israel. Saddam had shot Scud missiles over there. He didn't like Israel. He was a supporter of the Palestinian resistance. So Israel and the United States kind of realized, yo, this guy's a threat to us. Let's get him out of here and let's use the war on terror to use it as an excuse. And that's why we invaded Iraq. So to bring this all full circle and give you guys a nice bow on top of it, Ukraine, Russia invading Ukraine, they had way more justification than we did going into Iraq for those reasons I listed above.
Hey,
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Mike.
And
But
also, I just wanted to add that there was this, visionary document that was written on behalf. It was the neoconservatives that wrote it, but it was for Netanyahu. It was called the Clean Break. This was written in 1996, and it literally materialized. Like looking back in hindsight, everything that and it aligned to the Rebuilding America's Defenses, which was another one that was written by PNAC. They were all very parallel with their goals, and listing out what they needed to do in Iraq, getting kind of destabilizing Iraq and taking down Saddam was in both of those documents. And so this was well before 2003. It was and so
Oh, and
it
it
was
gets
part
even
of that
better.
plan. It was for
PNAC,
Israel.
it gets even better because PNAC, for those that don't know, is like a conservative Jewish think tank run by, Zionist dual allegiance Jews. The people that wrote the Clean Break memo, pretty much all of the framers of it were either Jews or hardcore Zionists. Majority Jews, though. Douglas Pearl, Feith, Wolfowitz, all these guys were hardcore Zionists. And these guys obviously all worked under Dick Cheney. And the reality is the Iraq war was really constructed by Dick Cheney. A lot of people don't know that Bush was a very inexperienced and stupid guy. He was never really like a smart dude. He was a C student. He got into Yale basically off of nepotism. He had been a brand new politician, not really refined. But Dick Cheney, on the other hand, was extremely experienced. He served under Nixon. He had been at the White House many times. He had been a Secretary of Defense before. So he kind of knew everybody, and he was the one actually. Another thing people don't know, he was the one that actually assembled pretty much all of Bush's cabinet. So all these people that he assembled were all loyal to him. So there were many times where Dick Cheney would just make executive decisions without the president's authorization. And for some of you guys, you might say, "Oh, well, Myron, well, why is that bad? He's the vice president. Should he be the second in power?" Yeah, but typically speaking, the vice president of the United States has almost always been a ceremonial position. It's kind of like the guy that's like an extension to the president. He does a lot of international stuff. He's showing face. He's there obviously as a backup in case anything happens. But typically, the vice president isn't making serious decisions. But Dick Cheney is one of the few vice presidents that actually had an enormous amount of power and was calling the shots. A lot of you guys may or may not know he was the one that famously, gave the order to not shoot down a plane, or was it to shoot down a plane? I forget exactly what it was, but he gave it a direct order that's typically only reserved for the president. So Dick Cheney was the head of he was the brain of the operations, but everyone that kind of was constructing it, making the meticulous planning, etc., all Jewish neocons, almost all of them.
yeah, so Dick Cheney, I actually watched him come out to Ukraine, and we'd be supplying him hookers, blow, everything for him to party, and he was making all the alliances and all the doing all the conversations on exactly what.
Are you sure it was Cheney or Biden?
Cheney.
Yeah.
You're 100% sure? Cheney?
Cheney was out there. I saw him. I saw him just partying his ass off, making these alliances. So I wanted to say one thing about Arabs aren't Muslim, the same thing as Jews aren't. Not all Arabs are Muslim, as all Jews aren't Zionists. What you talked about, Elon, why isn't Larry Ellis more talked about right now if he was granted all this access to and power and control in the government. Number one. Number two, last question is about the ley lines and the portals. Like, because I partnered with Dan Winter, which is a quantum physicist that answered questions that Nikola Tesla couldn't in his time. And we're like looking at basically like we have contacts in CERN. We're looking at how they're talking about there's beings walking out of these.
That's a wholly different topic though, right? Like, are you just
No,
kind of
it's the same thing. Just in Jerusalem, like that's what these wars are all stemming from. It's all about the ley lines and the portals. Basically, they want to control them because if you control that and you're able to where the energy's coming from, that's where the
You're
cataclysms.
overcomplicating things, man.
Yeah, yeah.
It boils down. Let me make this extremely easy for everyone to understand. Okay, we support Israel because we have powerful Jewish Zionists at almost every infrastructure point in the United States, whether it's Hollywood, porn, finance, banking, media in general, news, entertainment, music. Literally, there are powerful, rich Jews in almost every sector, and they have overrepresentation. These Jews are almost always very sensitive to the state of Israel. So whether they do it overtly and donate to the cause or they do it covertly, they all donate to the cause because Jews are a very tribal diaspora people and they haven't had a homeland for centuries. Okay. So it's almost like natural for them to support each other. This is precisely what got Hitler and Henry Ford in trouble. When you start to, it's okay. So there's different levels of being woke on this whole Jewish situation, right? There's normie shit. Well, let me go through the different levels. So there's level one. Level one is understanding that Jews have overrepresentation in America to some degree. Level two is understanding that this, overrepresentation is directly used to influence politicians in America and run our geopolitical situation. Step three is where you start getting into full blown, awakening where you understand not only do Jews run America, but they run other parts of the world, pretty much every first world English speaking country through a concept called world Jewry. Okay. Now, this is where you start to get into the fringe slash you're going to get banned territory if you mention this, because this is what Henry Ford and Hitler mentioned. And people used to write those guys off and say, oh, they're fucking crazy. Now, I know some of you guys are saying right now, this fucking guy Myron, he sounded smart 2 minutes ago. What the fuck is he fucking Alex Jones now? Let me give you guys an example of what I mean, so add some credence. I'm pretty sure everyone in here is familiar with a woman named Candace Jones, correct? Or
Oh yeah.
Candace Owens. I said Candace Jones, excuse me. Candace Owens, right? So Candace Owens, as you guys all know, was fired from the Daily Wire for calling out what was going on in Gaza. As a Christian, she did not like to see these kids being slaughtered, and she used her platform to speak out against it. Ben Shapiro, who owns the Daily Wire, a hardcore Zionist Jew, fired her. Now, he will never admit this, but he actually did. After she was fired from the Daily Wire, the ADL, aka the Anti Defamation League, a censorship organization run by Jews, went and did a huge hit piece on Candace Owens, calling her like anti-Semite of the year. She denies the Holocaust, blah, 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 right? They made this big ass hit piece on her. Right after that, guess what happened? Australia banned her from going to their country. Why is this important? Well, Candace Owens has been working on a book and she was planning a book tour this year. So knowing that, because she had applied for visas to go there and do her book tour, because you can't go to a foreign country and make money and do that type of shit, you got to get a visa. They denied her visa and she got banned from Australia. Then, following on to that, New Zealand banned her. Now you guys are probably wondering, man, why is this fucking relevant? This is what I mean. When I say world Jewry is real, that is the perfect example of it. Think of, it's basically a domino effect. She says something people don't like, Ben Shapiro fires them. Then the ADL writes an article on her. Then the Jewish lobby in Australia bans her. Then the Jewish lobby in New Zealand bans her. So that is the perfect example of what I mean when I say world Jewry. Regardless of where they are, continent, country, city, regardless, they're going to work together to stop and impede people that hurt the cause or their bottom line. That is the perfect example of world Jewry. And it's very real.
Is there more land?
Nigga, Heil Hitler.
Hold
Is there more? Is there? That's the last
hold
question I
on,
got,
Roielty.
and I'm
There's a
off.
bunch of hands up.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
So
Is there more land than what we've been told? And I'm done. Thank you.
No, well, the plan is they're gonna the Greater Israel Project is the plan. So the land is there, but their goal is to take it all.
yeah, Greater Israel, that's a whole nother topic. And I definitely want to talk about the Pam Bondi stuff, and I want to talk about all that before you leave. So just make sure that.
Yeah. I could talk about. I'm very Pam Bondi. I got to say a lot to say on her
Okay,
too.
good,
Sure.
good, good. So guys, let's make these questions and stuff around Israel a little bit quick so we can get to some of the stuff that's going on over here, some of the latest news. I
Let's
believe it.
reset too, Maze, and
Huh?
have everybody share. Like reset and share this thing,
Oh yeah.
everyone.
I'll reset after we get through these questions about Israel, and then we'll kind of shift gears. But yeah, everybody, please repost the space. I believe it. Go ahead, Paul, and then we'll go to Blue, and then say Jay. I think that's the order, and then
I just gotta ask Myron where he gets all this amazing energy, man. It's like 1:41 Pacific Standard Time. You just come in here, man, and I'm like, is it that you're just in good shape? Is it B12? Is it caffeine? Is it nicotine? What's your secret, man?
Actually, the secret is I don't use drugs at all. I got off. I did a stream earlier. I was on for like 7, 8 hours. I was just like working on shit. And I saw that Maze had a space, so I said, fuck it, I'll join in. It's been a minute since I've been in one of her spaces, and I kind of owed people space from before, so I figured I'd just come in and talk about the Portnoy situation because that shit was pissing me off, and obviously, see whatever else was going on. But yeah, dude, just never did a drug in my life, man.
Yeah, Portnoy did come out of nowhere. I mean, I never saw that whole Israel side. It was always Barstool Sports and that whole angle, and then out of nowhere, it was like he has a yarmulke on and an Israeli flag, and I'm like,
Bro,
whoa, where did that come from?
you know what? So I'm really glad you mentioned that, right? Here, that's another example of world Jewry. Let me explain what I mean. So Portnoy, for a lot of you guys, most of you probably didn't even know that he was Jewish, right? I knew he was Jewish this whole time, but I was like, okay, he's probably one of these like Jews that doesn't give a fuck. He's just like some frat bro, right? He looks white, whatever. When this shit happened with the sign, right? Well, actually, he showed his colors a couple months ago. Just a lot of people didn't realize it. As a lot of you guys know, well, some of you guys may or may not know. Anyone that's familiar with UFC is probably familiar with the fact that a guy named Bryce Mitchell started his YouTube channel, made extremely controversial comments on Adolf Hitler, right? This obviously sent everybody in the MMA world going crazy. Dana White, he did a whole public statement denouncing Bryce Mitchell, the owner of TKO Holdings, who is a Jew, by the way, hilarious. His fucking father was a terrorist. That's a whole other conversation. But basically, Dana's boss also got wind of this. So, and the whole Jewish community like lobbied to get Bryce Mitchell in trouble. So, Bryce Mitchell had a fight scheduled, I think, like last month, right? Dave Portnoy shows up to this fight with a fucking yarmulke on, waving the Israeli flag. So that was the first time I realized, like, oh, this is one of these fucking shapeshifter Jews where he pretends to be white when it benefits him, but then he'll also say he's Jewish when it benefits him. So that's another example of world Jewry. And then this kid does this shit of, of with the sign, and then what did Portnoy do? Okay, I'm gonna cancel your life, but I'm gonna send you to Auschwitz. Who does he call? One of the richest Jews in America, Robert Kraft. It's a fucking mafia, guys. It's a mafia.